Ryan Grafton joins me here today. You can learn what he's up to. Follow him on Instagram at Grafton Capital. I'm going to have a clickable link in the show notes, but really appreciate your time here, Ryan.
Thanks for having me. This is exciting.
So, we always kick things off just kind of doing a truncated version of this. How did you find your way into real estate investing?
Oh boy. Okay. Well, I'm from Ontario, Canada, and I moved to Calgary about almost 20 years ago. From there, my partner at the time and I got pregnant with our daughter and moved to small town BC where we could afford houses. Basically, I was the HGTV guy watching those Saturday afternoon, Saturday morning videos on DIY this, DIY that, and then picked up the Rich Dad Poor Dad book, like many of us have, and just kind of really got into that whole aspect of buying assets.
Doing this for a while now.
Yeah. So, first house I bought was probably 17 years ago now, a little two bed, one bath, and one of those just kind of live in renovations where we did all the flooring, paint, kitchen, checked off all those boxes before we moved on to the next one. But we held that one for quite some time as a rental and scaled our portfolio as we went.
What is the core piece of your business?
Yeah. So, well, I started with kind of the BRRRR method, right? Like just buy, renovate, rent, refi, and just kind of build and build and build. And that's been very profitable. And it's helped me kind of have the real estate portfolio I have now. But I wanted to challenge myself and get into more of a multifamily aspect. So bigger buildings, more doors under the same roof type aspect, and even looking at some development opportunities.
Okay.
Yeah.
What does your portfolio consist of and how do you manage it today?
Yeah. So right now we have a duplex, couple of like small multis, and then an Airbnb. My wife's a realtor and a property manager. I have been a realtor and a property manager in the past. So we have a lot of those skills. Looking more into the multifamily, I hired a coach to kind of break out all the aspects of syndication and building a team because, as you know, real estate is a team sport. Looking at just how to analyze everything, right? From the offer to the underwriting to the LOI, everything just scale up and then getting those right team members in place. And then moving into the development side in Canada, there's a whole bunch of incentives for developing right now with our housing crisis. So learning the ins and outs of that and applying those to the opportunities we have.
You talk a little bit about the benefits of having a coach and what caused you to do
Yeah.
that because a lot of people always see that more as an expense than an investment.
Yeah. And I was that guy too. Everything I did was just from, kind of learning from reading books and seeing what I found on online and TV really. And having a coach, man, they put you into a total different mindset, right? Like you are now they have you organized step by step on what you should be doing, who you should be calling, how to underwrite, how to look at deals, how to find the right property managers, everything. And they hold you accountable. So that's probably one of the biggest things is making sure, like for the coach I had for multifamily and still have, we meet once a week. And at first 4 months was just kind of hard education, like schooling, if you will. And then now when we have our calls, we just analyze deals together. Having a coach has vastly improved my knowledge and also streamline my business activities.
Yeah, it's crazy how accountable you are to somebody else.
Have
It was really telling when me and my partner, we were working on some things and just having somebody sitting next to you
yeah.
on a daily basis, knowing that they're counting on you and you're counting on them, it
un-
provides a new level of motivation I don't think a lot of people experience.
No, you're absolutely right. And to your point, a lot of people say, oh, it's, coaching is expensive. And it can be. But the way I look at it is if I got one deal done because I used the coach and I learned all that information, well, that's the best investment I could have made because I'm going to use that information time and time again, but I only had to pay once. So that's the way I look at it.
Yeah, in this day and age of subscription models, it's kind of a good way to get a lot of value.
Yeah, 100%. Right. I mean, if I get one deal out of, say, it cost me $5,000, but I close on $1 million property because of that, well, I'm going to get that cash flow for the rest of my life. That $5,000 is going to look like pennies by the end of the day.
Mhm.
So,
So, what I think is interesting is that you said you came from watching HGTV. When now that you've been in the thick of it, how far off was what you saw on the screen to real world?
They make it look really easy in 30 minutes, don't they?
Yes, they
Ah,
do.
and again, had I used a coach, I was Mr. Trial and Error and, oh, I'll figure that out as I go type thing. It cost me probably thousands and thousands of dollars and hours of time. I mean, and you learn who to use, right? I'm never going to mud and sand a wall again. I'm never going to do that again because it took me forever. I don't know how many times I screwed it up. I don't know how many times that wall just didn't look right. Using the proper contractors for the proper job, planning your job out. Like there was so much to learn that TV's not showing you.
Yeah. I'm with you on the handyman stuff. My buddy still gives me crap today because I had to put a firewall in a garage. It was just sheetrock, but it was a hot summer day and I almost killed myself doing it. And it took me all day to do it.
Yeah, sometimes it's not worth it.
Yeah. It's best to pay for some of that stuff.
It is, yeah.
So, what's been your biggest mistake so far?
Biggest mistakes, I mean, not getting an inspection. I've done that a couple of times. And then you take down some walls, or maybe you didn't look in the attic, or, maybe I didn't know enough about furnaces, whatever the case may be. And then all of a sudden, bam, that's a $5,000, $10,000 extra cost that you didn't budget for. So now you're scrambling. Maybe your profit margin's not the same. So inspections would have been my number one mistake.
Yeah. You know what? It's one of those things that I think we're doing a better job at. Even though we buy a lot of distressed homes, we sometimes send in an inspector to give us our to-do list associated with the property. So it gives us
Yeah.
a target list because we know the buyer is going to go through with an inspection.
And that's a great point. Great strategy.
Yeah. There's been a couple times where you can then say, "Oh, here's the inspection report."
Exactly. You can show that to the buyer. You're right.
Yeah. So your wife is a realtor, so does she do any fix and flipping at this point?
So we just finished one last year in my province of British Columbia. They just put in a flipping tax. So they're making it more and more difficult for people to do that, which is completely frustrating. You'd have to pay your capital gains like anywhere else, but now they've put it so you have to hold it for at least 1 year,
Hmm.
or it's a 20% tax on top of your capital gains. And then in between year 1 and 2, there's a sliding scale that goes down, like the tax goes down a little bit each month, but it makes it harder to do those fix and flips. And the frustrating part of it was, as flippers, we get a bad reputation. But in my mind, we're providing a very good service. The house we went into was unsellable the way it was. We've come in there with our expertise and our design ability and turned it into a beautiful family home that, yeah, of course we take our profit, but somebody going into the house, they probably wouldn't have bought it. And if they did, they're in way over their head. So they're taking away that incentive for us to provide a service that I think is very valuable.
Especially in the market. You said there's a housing crisis. Like it I don't
Absolutely.
under I will never understand why the government continues to get in the way of people providing housing. I don't.
I have no idea. And so up in Canada, granted, they do have that incentive now where there's government backed loans where we can go up to 95% loan to value and create that housing. And it's also spread out over a 50-year term. So it still creates cash flow for the developer. And then there's some kind of target you have to meet. So, for example, you have to have like 25% of that building has to be affordable, what's deemed affordable in that area. And that has to be over the course of 10 years. So it creates the incentives for the developers to build housing and also makes it still affordable for the people trying to get in the market.
So have you tried one of these development projects yet, or are you working on it?
Yeah, so we got two on the go right now that we're trying to get funding for. Both are in Alberta. And the reason we like Alberta is there's a little bit more flexibility with landlord laws. So long term, it'll be easier to run our business model. The cost of land right now is a little bit cheaper as well compared to BC and Ontario. So there's those opportunities there. We're looking at a 147 unit building with commercial on the bottom floor, which would be a restaurant, and 130 unit building in Edmonton, which would be just strictly residential.
So have you noticed any significant difference when you're doing this multi-use facilities?
So this would be my first one, but the financing portion is a little bit different. So like I said, you can go up to 95% on the residential side, but they'll only lend 75% for the commercial portion. So they do a blended rate and then you're maybe getting 92% total financing there.
What's been the biggest challenge doing your first syndication?
Capital raising, as with anything, the thing that is good about this model is you can go to 95%. So you're only having to raise 5% plus your closing fees and your acquisition costs. So you're not having to raise as much capital as opposed to buying a new or an existing building that you need 25, 30% down. So in that regard, that should be a little bit easier. But again, capital raising is the name of the game, I think, for everybody.
So one of the things that stands out is that you've been doing this for a number of years now. Is there anything that you do on a regular basis to keep your mindset in right so that you stay in the game?
Yeah. So I'm part of a mastermind program. So we meet weekly, and that's like basically solely real estate based professionals. Meeting with that group weekly has been a game changer. And I'm in another coaching program as well, that same kind of just entrepreneurial, kind of more business related aspect. And with those, that goes back to the accountability again, right? Like those people are keeping you accountable while you're keeping them accountable. You're getting all the up to date changes and news firsthand and ways to kind of move around those obstacles, if you will.
Mhm. Yeah, the masterminds are really a special situation because they do provide you some additional insights, and then you're talking to some peers. What I always find really interesting is that out of all of the groups that I've been a part of, there is typically little to no competition, and the amount of people willing to share and tell you just it's almost shocking.
That's what I found too. And I was saying that to my wife, just the availability of information and everybody's willingness to help one another grow. It doesn't feel like everybody's fighting for the same loaf of bread. We're all just like, how do we all become successful in the business we're in? And it's been so refreshing to have that kind of mentality. It's nice.
Just to remind everybody, you can find Ryan on Instagram, Grafton Capital. That's at Grafton Capital. So, Ryan, what has been like your biggest win so far on all of this? Maybe
Uh,
something that surprised you.
the biggest win I would say was my mindset from going into mastermind groups, from doing all of this on my own from before. The confidence that I've built and the ability to go into situations that I previously were maybe uncomfortable with, even joining a podcast. I would have never joined a podcast before without having the support from the groups I'm in. So that's the biggest win for me. Just that ability to feel comfortable in my surroundings now, feel a lot more knowledgeable, and be able to have that network of people that I can just go into and say, hey, I found this deal. I think it's good. Can you get your set of eyes on it? Right. And then feeling like I can do that for other people as well. So it's a huge win there.
Sure. You mentioned, or I noticed that you have a VA as
Yeah.
well. Was that a leap for you? Did you, when you hired that first one?
Yeah. And again, I guess that might even be, well, that's where I found the VAs through these groups and learning what a VA was and what they do and how valuable they can be. And again, like at first I was like, do I even need one? Like, it's just me. But what you learn really quickly is that takes up a whole lot of your day. And when
Mhm.
you can delegate that to somebody who's way better at me, way better at it than I am. They're going to provide a better product. They're going to be keeping you on task so I can do the stuff that I need to be doing. And that's networking and looking for deals. For me, the VA, like she does my email, my social media. She's lead generation for me. She reaches out online to make connections for me. Invaluable resource.
Yeah, it's kind of surprising. I think it always surprises people once you get things going and they're providing all of this assistance and freeing up your time. Start to wonder, why did I resist this the whole time?
Yeah. Why did I resist? And I mean, the cost is affordable and she's worth every single penny. And I look forward to working with her every day. Like she's always keeping me on task, which is fantastic. And honestly, I thought Like she wanted 40 hours a week. And I said, well, I don't even know if I can do that. And now I'm like, I'm almost overloading her. Like I'm almost thinking, do I need another one? Because there's so many things you can do to grow your business and they're valuable.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Do you have them here doing anything outside of work?
No, not yet. Have you?
No, I was just like, I've run into a few people that, they're using their VA for just personal errands and a few other things
Okay.
I know of somebody who mentioned that she has an elderly mother that her VA calls and checks on
Oh,
each day,
that's
just
fantastic.
just stuff like that.
Well, you could have them make your grocery list for the week.
Yeah.
Really? And hey, just email me a grocery list so I know I can order it online and go pick it up at the store.
On the flip side, I know another fella who replaced his VAs with AI. So he's
Really?
got most of his stuff automated through that
See, that's coming.
different
That's
process.
that's the next big thing, right? Like being replaced.
Yeah, slow but sure. I don't
Yeah,
know how great it is, but it definitely is something to if you find a way to get it done, I guess. I
yeah.
suppose he had to hire a VA to program all of this stuff to replace his VA.
Oh, no
That's the downside to it.
kidding. Yeah.
So, well, outside of that, I'd be curious, how has it been scaling your business? Do you have SOPs? How is that documentation going, and what are
Yeah.
you doing for that?
Yeah. So just got into using a Go High Level as our CRM. So we were using HubSpot for a bit there. I didn't feel like it was giving us everything we needed. And I mean, no, people using HubSpot, if you like it, great. I just felt like the value wasn't there for us for in compared to Go High Level. So my VA is working on getting everything kind of transferred over there right now. Same thing, like getting those emails out, getting those all set up. So it's going well, but we've just switched over in the past week and a half. So there's a learning curve for sure.
It's a very powerful platform, especially with the voice and SMS and everything that's available through there.
Yeah, totally. I mean, everything's automated on there. So, like, again, she's taken the driver's seat there. Actually, our meeting next week, we have a meeting every Monday morning. So, next week's topic is I want her to break it down for me. Like, I want to teach me how to use this so I understand what you're doing, type thing.
Right.
Yeah,
Is something that you got to be aware of. Like, I mean, she is a VA. She's not going to be around there forever. So you have to
exactly.
have at least a basic idea of what's going on.
So, I'm looking forward to her teaching me on what she's doing.
Sure. Have you ever had that type of situation where you sound like you're speaking from experience that covering your butt?
No, but again, with the masterminds and the coaching I've been in, like they set you up for like the what ifs and hey, think about this next step and make sure you're doing this. So I've had a lot of support there and they're just like, yeah, like make sure you understand what they're doing because if and when they do leave or they, whatever they want to do, they want to go to another company or scale their own lives. Like, I mean, you're going to have to replace them. So having that, like you said, that SOP in place where you can just pretty much plop the next one in and run as seamlessly as possible is important. So, I mean, I got to get on it for sure.
Well, maybe the VA should be, video. What is it called? Loom.
Yep.
I've seen that being used a lot too, recording a few things as she goes, or he, I guess, have some of that built out for you too.
And actually, I know like one of the books I'm reading or just read, they said that as well, like videotape your tasks and put them onto a drive as well. So the next person can come in and just boom without missing.
Right. Yeah. That's one of those things that I wish we would all get in better habit of, because in the end, it just makes life so much easier. There's
Yes.
certain things that you answer the same questions over and over and over. And if you would have just taken a second,
Yeah.
recorded a quick video on it, it would have saved you who knows how much time.
Hours and hours for sure.
Well, am I missing anything? What else should we chat about here?
Yeah. I don't know. Like, well, going back to the coaching, I mean, what inspired me most is like helping people kind of take their next step. So what I've done and what I'm doing is I'm working on launching a coaching program myself and it'll be kind of based. So here's what I think. I've been a realtor, property manager, contractor, I've worn a lot of hats. My wife is in the business right now and I see a lot of realtors struggling with going client to client, finding leads, you know, and what I was just researching today, the average home buyer buys a home every 7 to 10 years. So sure, you get that one client, you sell them a house, maybe 7 to 10 years later, you're going to get that client again. So what I want to do is challenge realtors to think about more working with investors,
Mhm.
right? So like get that investor network where you can kind of hone in your niche and have, investors are going to buy 1 to 4 to 10 properties a year, depending on who
Mhm.
they are, fix and flippers, whatever, right? Long term holds. So if you can get that network of clients, that is going to save you a lot of time and make you the same amount of income, if not more. So my coaching program is going to be based on teaching realtors the ins and outs of working with investors, what they need to do, how they can attract them, how they can keep them as clients, how to underwrite. Like I want them to be able to understand how to be an investor themselves, right? Because a lot of realtors, they're really good at sales, but they don't know the ins and outs of a deal. I'm really excited about that coaching opportunity.
Yeah, I think you're onto something there. It is we do work with number of realtors and we're always asked what we're looking for. Well, we're looking for distressed properties that have some sort of equity position that we can add equity to. They always misunderstand that as maybe 10%. No, we need more than that because you're asking me to put in $50,000 in updates and repairs. Giving me the property at a 10% discount isn't going to cut it.
No, no, that's right. So like having somebody that completely understands every client's investment model and just the Rolodex of people like you can get going and be able to be like, oh, I have a guy here. I have a network over here. So I think there's value there. I think realtors can find value in working directly with investors and focusing their time there as opposed to chasing those retail clients.
I've always found it interesting too that for the number of investor realtors that a person works with, you'd think you'd see more realtors getting into investing, but you don't.
You don't. And I don't know why. I don't know if it's a lack of knowledge thing but like that's one of the things I want to tackle as well. Like show them the value of buying the properties they're selling and building
Mhm.
their own long-term wealth instead of relying on that yearly commission.
Right.
Yeah,
No, that's a really good point. I think that'll be an interesting program. In fact, I'd probably point some realtors in your direction
that's
when it
great.
comes to that type of thing.
Love it.
S- So, really appreciate your time here today. We'll jump into the rapid fire questions here, but before we do, just want to call your Instagram out again. IG and Instagram as graftoncapital.com. I have IG on the screen. Grafton Capital is you can find him on Instagram. But if you're ready, we'll jump into the rapid fire questions and close
Let's
out
do it.
this episode. First, what lie do real estate investors often tell themselves?
This will be easy. Or I know where I can find capital for that easy. They just think it's going to be this. They find the deal. It's just going to be snap your fingers and away you go and sold it or held it or whatever you're going to. It's not that easy. There's so many things to take into account and so many things that are going to come up where you did not expect. And on every single deal.
When you said HGTV,
Yeah.
we have a real estate investing group, and half the time, you see people come in all the time and they're going to do their flipping, and you
Yeah.
can almost tell that they have this idea from television,
Yeah.
and you see them once or twice, and then that's kind of the end of it.
It's a lot harder than they thought.
Yeah, and there's been a couple times we've had to buy a couple projects off of people because
Okay. Well, I mean, that with me at the start, the thing was I stuck with it and figured out how to do it.
well, if you could go back in time and give your younger self a piece of advice, what would that be?
I'd be hiring a coach or a mentor right away. I mean, just the knowledge they have, the mistakes they can help you avoid. Like I don't know if it was a confidence thing or an ego thing that I could just do this on my own, but real estate is 100% a team sport. So the more people you have in your corner on your team, I mean, there's enough of it to go around. Maybe I thought, oh, there's so many investors out there that are looking to do the same thing. No, there's not. And even if there are, you can work together. Like collaboration is key.
Do you have a book recommendation, or what are you reading right now?
Yeah, so I'm reading How to Win Friends and Influence People right now. Great book.
Mhm.
Buy Back Your Time by Dan Martell.
I have been binge watching him on YouTube.
He's incredible. Yeah, great book.
Yeah.
And then 10 Times is Easier Than Two Times by Dan Sullivan. This is like, again, a lot of the points in these is building that team and delegating the work. So again, the VA, what can they take away from your day that isn't serving you and that isn't worth your time, I guess is the best way to put it.
Yeah. You know, every time it happens a few times a week, but I cannot tell you how I have hundreds of books in my Audible library, and then I keep buying another one. And that's, I'm never going to get through them all. And now you just added another one. 10x
Yeah, there
is
you go.
easier than 2x. I
Yeah.
don't have that. I don't think I have that one.
That one's going to open your mind because the whole basis there is like, think as big as you possibly can because your major goal way up here, there's only a couple ways to get there. It's easy to make an extra $1,000 a month. There's so many different things you could do. But to make $1 million a month, there's only a few roads to that number. So it really hones in where you want to go with your business.
It goes back to the mindset again. Unless you're with, like, in a mastermind or something where you have other people actually doing 10x or
Yeah.
more than what you are, and you start to immerse yourself into that world,
Yeah.
it's like you get stuck. There's these limitations you place upon yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's my wife and I started a real estate investing group in our town. Our next meeting's actually next week. It'll only be the second one. But the same thing there is I want to surround myself with people in the community that are ahead of me, but I also want to help those people that are 2 or 3 steps behind me.
Hmm.
And just getting that network of people together, again, invaluable.
Have a tool or strategy that you've implemented that has had the biggest time saving impact to you or your business?
Yeah, I think we've talked about it, but if you want to scale, you have to delegate. If you don't think you have enough work for a VA, you're probably wrong. Everybody can have their email managed, their social media handled. It doesn't have to be 40 hours a week. Some of them want to work part time. So
Mhm.
there's a whole bunch of strategies you can use. But yeah, hiring a VA was the biggest tool.
One more time, you can find him on Instagram, Grafton Capital. That's going to be a clickable link in the show notes, but really appreciate your time tonight.
Yeah, thanks, Jack. This has been fantastic. I appreciate it.
You bet.